Hi guys, it's Erica, and as the weather gets colder, I'm going to make a video about what to do for your plants in the winter because care in the summer and the winter are actually pretty different because, of course, in the winter time there is less sunlight, one, and then also it gets a lot colder depending on where you live. If you live near the equator, you really don't have to change anything that you're doing. It's warm all year round. You're fine. So I live in Southern California. I live in the San Fernando Valley, and if you live here, you don't really need to worry about the temperatures dropping, like if you have a bunch of your plants outside, because I do know that a lot of people take their plants out for the summer. You can just leave them out there during the whole winter. I'm leaving all my plants outside. They'll be fine. They'll just grow a little bit slower. If you live in an area where it gets really cold and it snows, you need to bring your plants in. You probably have honestly already started bringing your plants in, but if you haven't already, then as the weather gets colder, consider bringing them in. Something though that you really want to pay attention to are bugs, any pests. 100% spray your plants down with a pesticide. If you don't have one, then I'll put the little ratios that I use for my Neem spray. You just use 100% cold pressed neem oil. You can get it from wherever. And then I also use the Peppermint Bronner's soap because it's really gentle. It's okay on the plants, and water. And you just mix it all together and then you can spray it thoroughly. Spray your plants. Like your plants could be dripping with this stuff. The only thing is that when you do use it, I think any pesticide in general, don't keep your plants somewhere where they could get burned because they become more sensitized to sunlight. There's less sun, so I don't know if that's as much of a problem as in the summer, but you definitely do want to spray your plants down when you bring them in because bugs are a big problem. Once you get them, it is so hard to get rid of them. Once you bring your plants all in, they're probably going to be a little bit crowded because when you keep buying plants while your house is kind of empty looking and then suddenly you're adding them all up, like it could be a lot. So you do want to be careful because all of them are going to be clumped together. Bugs can spread so quickly. It's terrifying, actually. It's terrifying. Yeah, be aware of that. Try to space your plants out as much as possible. They do still need room to breathe and everything. I know there's a lot of times where I make this shelf way too clustered, and sometimes I look back at old videos like, girl, what is going on? So try and space them out as much as possible. A big pest problem is spider mites. Spider mites thrive in the wintertime when your plants are indoors. First of all, you probably have your heater going at all times of the day to keep your house warm. So that kind of dries the air out. Spider mites love dry, warm air. This is the time where they will come for your alocasia specifically. If you have an alocasia, you need to check it every single day because it's gonna be eaten alive. I don't want to scare you. I just want you to be aware and cautious, especially for alocasias. If you have ivy, check on the ivy. If you have palms, those are really susceptible to spider mites, and your other plants, it will spread to your other plants if it's touching those other plants. So be aware of that. A way that you can prevent the spider mites is to have a humidifier going so that it doesn't get as dry. So if you don't have a humidifier now, then maybe look into getting one. Word to the wise though, if you have a humidifier, clean it out weekly because I did not clean mine out weekly. Cleaned it out less frequently than that. And now I can't use either of them because if I use them, then I will get sick. I've literally thrown up because I kept my humidifier on throughout the night and there's no way to clean it any better. So I'm going to be looking into getting a new humidifier as well. So yeah, be sure to keep your humidifiers clean. But humidifiers are key during the winter to prevent spider mites, specifically spider mites. I hate spider mites. Another thing that you need to worry about is once you bring your plants in, keep them away from any drafts, like an area where you're opening the door a lot and cold air is rushing in. You want to be aware that your plants are not in an area like that, or that they're not sitting directly under where your heater is blowing the air on. And then also keeping them away from the windows, especially if you live somewhere where it gets frosty. they will feel the cold through the windows, and your plants can get frostbite, even though, not frostbite, I think that's what it's called. Personally, that doesn't happen here where I live, but it can happen. Your plants will get, like, their leaves will turn yellow, you will notice it. So keep them off of directly being on the windows and kind of in a place where they're not as exposed to the elements, I guess. And then also, like I said, there's gonna be less sunlight. So the cold part we've covered pretty much. Make sure you spray your plants all the time, bring them inside, keep them away from the windows, keep them away from drafts and hot air. But for the less sunlight, the days are gonna be shorter, and there's probably gonna be more overcast days than not. So you also wanna make sure that your plants are not being overly fertilized. If you are somewhere where it's overcast a lot, the days are really short, so it's dark a lot of the time, then your plants will probably not need any fertilizer at all, because they need sunlight to actively grow, and if they're not getting that sunlight, they're probably going to be growing slower, much slower, or not even at all compared to how fast they were growing in the summertime. So they're not going to need those extra nutrients. Like I said, if you live in a temperate area, you can continue fertilizing your plants. So for example, I'm going to continue fertilizing my plants, although a lot less than I did in the summertime, because there is still shorter days. That kind of brings us into grow lights also. These plants I can fertilize the same, because they're getting the same amount of light that they have always been getting, regardless of if it's summer or winter, so they can be getting the same amount of fertilizer. Also, if you want to look into grow lights, now would be the perfect time. I'm actually going to do a video on how to choose grow lights, I think in like 2 days, so watch out for that video if you're interested. So a humidifier and grow lights, now's the time to buy, so I won't have to be changing any care for these plants. For the watering, soil is not going to dry out as quickly when the temperatures are cold, there's not as much sunlight. So you do want to cut back on watering. Be careful not to overwater your plant. The soil might stay damp for longer than it would have in the summertime, where, you know, it's really hot, so the soil just dries out super quickly. For the plants that I'm keeping outside that are houseplants, I'm going to water them less still, 100%, because it's definitely not as hot in the summertime. Like going from 100-degree weather to like 60-degree weather, the soil is of course not going to dry out as quickly. So really be careful of that. There might be a problem of fungus gnats if the soil is staying wet for too long, so you maybe might want to try out bottom watering for your plants. If you want to take any propagations or repot some plants, you might want to finish that up, because it's going to take plants longer to recover if they're not getting as much sunlight. Propagations might not grow roots as quickly. That's okay. I still take propagations and repot plants all throughout winter. I really love repotting and I really love taking propagations. So that's not really as much of a concern, but if you do care that your plant is not gonna kind of bounce back from a propagation or repotting as quickly as it would in the summertime, then keep that into consideration when you're deciding on whether or not to go through with it. I think that covers everything. If you guys have any additional questions, then you can leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to get to them. Like I said, I'm going to be having a video on grow lights, like how to choose grow lights, and I think they're really great. Like, I love grow lights. If you live in a house that already is pretty dark, and then during the winter time it's going to be darker, then I highly recommend looking into grow lights, because it allows you to have more plants and they're happy. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!